to this place where like having a highly anticipated record after winning Songwriter of the Year, that's a really big moment. How are you feeling about the way that he's evolved as an artist, as a songwriter?
It's an exceptional story. I mean, we're talking about all these facets of his career, and I'll highlight that his first album came out in 2022. We're talking about 3 years.
Really compressed timeline here.
He's played over 300 shows in this time. I want to say Aitanabe is one of the hardest working people in Canadian show business right now. What I love about how he's evolved is, you know, his work ethic, certainly. His songwriting, he won that Juno, but he is such a prolific songwriter, and I think also he's really gained this familiarity with the industry. I think it's fascinating how he approaches the music industry, an industry that certainly maybe wouldn't have opened its doors to him. He had to really fight to get through with people who brought him through, you know, at Ishkade and everything. But now he's opening the door behind him. He's taking it like a student, and I find it fascinating how he's not only learning it himself, but he's evolving in that way in terms of the community he's bringing along with him. And lastly, sonically, I'm really happy that he's evolved and really leaning into this anthemic chest-thumping, foot-stomping power of his voice. This is arena alt-rock. This is where Aitanabe sits the best, and I'm really happy he's leaning in and going all the way in with that musically as well.
Yeah, I hear all of these songs and I desperately want to hear them in like the biggest stadium there is. Okay, I want to move on to another album that's coming out today, and I'm just so incredibly excited about this one. Let's hear it. You got Alana, you got Etsy, you got Danielle, the sisters, better known as Chaim. That song is Relationships. The album is called I Quit. Riley, first of all, I should say, this is their longest album. And you don't really get a lot of like long Chaim albums. This was 52 minutes, 15 songs that we're talking about here. Does it sustain your attention as you sort of like put it on and go like, I'm sticking around all the way to the end?
I mean, I did listen to it all the way through, not just because I had to be here to talk about it, but because I enjoyed it. I will say, though, I do think it's a little bit, in my first couple listenings, like a little bit front-heavy. I think the first half of the album really shines, and the second half, to me, is like very much a slowdown, and like a little bit of I think, trying to do some things where there's like a lot of bouncing around in approaches, and they had, I think, a bunch of different, very distinctive producers on this album as well, so it makes sense to me that there's such a scope in terms of the type of songs they're putting in there. But yeah, I'm a front half listener. I think it maybe could have done with a couple cuts.
Well, I'd say, like, that's the thing, like 15 songs is now kind of a bit of an ask, right? Like sort of space to stick around for this entire run. I do think it's thematically at least holds up, even if it doesn't necessarily sonically do so. Emily, for you, what do you listen to I Quit? What are the concepts? What are the ideas that kind of listen to?
I'm just saying that this album is like when your best friend finally dumps their really crappy boyfriend right before the summer. This is what the album feels like. It's like they are quitting, they are quitting, you know, those toxic exes, the situationships, the people that are not working for us anymore. They are also quitting, you know, the conversation around Chaim has always been, you know, what genre, what lane are they in? They walk that forbidden line of rock and pop, never the two shall meet. And I feel like on this album they're also quitting caring about perception. It's, you know, sonically it's much more patchwork genre-wise than we're used to, so I think they're quitting that. So I think they're putting all of these things, these people, this toxicity, these narratives that don't serve them in a pile, they're burning it, and they're walking off into the California sunset in unison, because I'm convinced that Chaim walks everywhere in a line in unison, because that's what every single music
They're not triplets. There's like a 6 or 7 year difference between the oldest and the youngest one. But having said that, like, there is something about the ways that they kind of like share a hive mind. Like, they sort of seem to be. They talked about how this record was kind of like mostly written during this like exceptional period where the 3 of them were single.
Can you imagine? I want that documentary.
Right? Like, what does that period kind of look like? But also, Chaim not particularly ever known for subtlety, and the first song on this album samples George Michael's Freedom in the chorus. I'm like, I just want to talk about how they don't care what genre you want to put them in. They're like, we're having fun. Is this not fun for you?
100%. But they forced to carried away, because especially if you see Haim live, they are a live band. I really challenge you and duel you if you see them live and refuse to call them a rock band in any sense. So I'm happy they're leaving that behind, but it's something that I had to navigate for so long. So now they're like, you know what? I quit. I'm doing my own thing. 15 songs. Strap in, buddy.
Yeah, have a good time with this one. Kim, what do you make of this record?
So I have not had the chance to listen to all 15 songs.
That's fair.
But back in my day, 15 songs was considered a double album. So you had like two pieces of vinyl that you got to listen to. The songs I have heard, I actually really love them, and you're right, that like summertime, you're going to put this on, you're going to play those songs over and over again. 17-year-old me would have had it on repeat for the entire summer.
Yeah.
And today me, I'm going to play that a lot at the cabin this summer. Music has to transport me somewhere. Like whether it's to the past or, today or somewhere in the future when I'm listening to it, it brings me someplace. And I have to connect with the music to really love it.
Yeah.
And that's what it does. And it does have, you mentioned California, and it does have that 70s California flavor to it, which, that's, well, maybe
that's a high compliment. I think that's a big musical legacy. I mean, we're talking about like Mac, we're talking about, Jeff Mitchell. Like I hear Joni sing this song. And like that is not a comparison that you make like. Do you think it kind of like lives up to that legacy in terms of like trying to create a music that sort of feels so rooted in a place? You think?
Absolutely, yeah. And occasionally, and they're they heard this, they probably hate it, but maybe a little bit of Wilson Phillips in there as well.
No, I bet you the Haim sisters would love nothing more than being compared to Wilson Phillips. Because I do think that like there's something about their maybe rebellious positioning of saying like like they named an album Women's Music partly because they're like, there's something reductive that happens when people think about like women making rock music, but how do we get sort of past that? That's kind of been the whole shtick here, right?
For the detractors, Stevie Nicks said any one of them could have been in Fleetwood Mac. So just take that in.
We're not here to argue with Stevie. That is not a thing that we are built to do. No, not me either.